Yankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So welcome Hitesh. So thank you all for letting him join. It has come to the class, and so Hitesh, you want to just introduce yourself for 2 minutes?
Sure. Happy to be here, and thank you for being part, letting me be part of this group. At an HBS event last week, I had the pleasure of listening to Surya and Neema, and it was a great pleasure. So I got in touch with them. We could spend some time. I ended up going to, the conversation led to, there to speak more. So I ended up going to their house. They were kind enough to host me. We then had dinner this Sunday night again. Lots of conversation, and looks like everything, so much of interest that I have in spirituality is, I will find some, answers to the question that I have, and that's why I ended up coming here. So thank you for having me, and looking forward.
Okay. So the next verse, now we are on chapter 5 and verse 19. I will send you the PDF, okay? Because we've just selected a few verses of the Gita and
sure.
we're doing that. So, you will chant after me, I will chant. Sanyasastu mahabhaho dukhamaptumayogataha yoga yukto munim brahma nachirena digacchati. Sanyasastu mahabhaho dukhamaptumayogataha. No, you chant after me. Yeah. Sanyasastu mahabhaho Dukkhamaptumayogataha Yoga yukto munir brahma Nachirena digacchati. So here he says, Mahabahu refers to Arjuna. He says, Sanyasastu mahabahu dukkham aptum ayogata. Okay? If you take sannyasa and if you are not prepared, it leads to unhappiness. Exactly. Okay? Whereas yoga yukta is the one who performs karma yoga. He is the one who gains Brahman, not after long. Okay? So that means it is easier for the person who is performing karma yoga to get moksha. Okay? Now this is a very big statement. In order to understand this statement, you first need to understand who is a sannyasi, okay? And what is the vision, what is the Vedic vision of life. Okay? So according to the Vedic vision, human birth is a very special birth. You are given the buddhi, which is not only, it's not most of the beings on this earth, if you see, they are mostly programmed. It's not that they are totally programmed, but the level of programming they have is quite high. Okay? For example, a cow is a vegetarian. You don't have to go and teach her anything. She's just normally vegetarian. Okay? A lion is a carnivore, and you don't have to go and teach. It's just basically programmed. Whereas a human being has a free will. One can make one choices. I can eat whatever I want. I can eat unhealthy food, I can eat healthy food, I can eat vegan food, I can eat all kinds of different kinds of food. So this is what we say, that a human being is endowed with free will. Okay? Along with free will also comes the responsibility of how do I use this free will and not waste it away. Okay? Now, what is important is also, along with free will, also a human being has a capacity which is what we call a self-reflective capacity. So not only you engage in the world, you often think about the nature of your interaction with the world. Right? So that means you reflect. It's not that once that event is over, you just completely forget about it. When you reflect upon yourself, okay, based on all the different interactions that you have had in the universe, then it also gives rise to self-image. Right? You have a self-image based on the nature of your interactions. So every human being has a self-image. Okay? And most of the time, that self-image, no matter how people think you are, is not very self-enhancing. Many times. Even if you pretend to have that superiority complex, right? You pretend that you are somebody who is very important and you are, in fact, there is, what you feel about yourself is not so good, and therefore you have the need to project yourself in a certain manner. Okay? So there is this whole, Surya was showing me a very nice framework. He comes up with a nice framework. So that there is this whole thing about the facade. Okay? So that means we present to the world what we want the world to know about ourselves. Okay? We don't really present the entire us. Okay? So therefore, this facade can be what? Inferiority complex. Nobody actually wants to project oneself as having inferiority complex, but what happens is that it just comes out. How you feel about yourself, it comes out unknowingly. Right? So your lack of confidence can come out in so many different ways. Okay? Now, if you're aware of your lack of confidence, and what do? It is unacceptable to you. So you try to compensate. Okay? When you try to compensate, what happens? You project yourself in a better light than what you think you are. Okay? When you project yourself, what is actually the problem?
It's not the real.
That's first, it's not really the you. You're creating a conflict between what you think about yourself and what you want others to believe about yourself. Okay? Now the second thing is, even after you projected yourself to be who you are, sometimes people don't even, in people's life, you are not really the center.
Yeah.
Okay? So therefore, what happens is, all these different things that you are telling, they will just hear one way, and they are not going to reflect on, they are just going to forget about it, because in their life, you are just one of the passing characters. Their mind is so loaded with all the things that they are dealing with, right? So at times, you don't get the response that you are looking for from others, because you are trying to impress others, but others are totally preoccupied with some of their own things. When you don't get the appropriate response, what happens? You get frustrated, right? So you feel further down. Okay? And that again makes you feel I'm no good, or that person, or you're angry with that person. So this is how that whole self-image keeps on building, and we human beings become highly complex human beings. Okay? Years and years of interactions, and the messages we are giving to ourselves about the nature of those interactions. Okay? Now, if this is really, therefore, everybody is a package of load.
Package of load.
Loads that we are carrying within ourselves, but we don't show it. Sometimes we ourselves are not very aware of certain loads that we are carrying. Sometimes we are aware and we try to hide them.
So deep down.
So many deep down, exactly. So many layers.
Forgotten the
Right, exactly. So if this is how every individual is, okay, then nobody can stand oneself in that light. Okay? So we are trying freedom, everybody. Okay? We are trying to free ourselves from all this load, because the load becomes too much. Whether we are talking about it or we are not talking about it, that load that we are carrying, nobody is satisfied with it. Okay? So therefore, moksha is, what is the pursuit of moksha? Freedom from this load. This is really, if you want to understand what is moksha, it is freeing yourself from this load that you are carrying within yourself. Okay? Because everybody else, what is that person doing? The person is trying to free oneself from the load through the pursuit of what? You think more money will give you the image which will make you feel good about yourself, or get the recognition of the society that you feel that you are no good, that lack that you have, it will be filled, okay? But it never gets filled actually. Okay? Or different pleasures that we engage in. So we are actually trying to get rid of this lack and the poor load, the load that we are carrying within ourselves. Okay? Then you think that, okay, now let me be, in order to engage in the world a little bit more responsibly, let me think that, I'm a social, exactly, right? Social, ethics, all these things that we try to embellish ourselves with to feel good about ourselves. Behind everything, what we are really looking for is what? Feeling good about ourselves and unloading the burden that we have within ourselves. Okay? Therefore, as Anna says, even if you are doing social work, don't think that you are doing it for the sake of others. You are in some way, but you are also very much interested in yourself. Okay? There is a very beautiful sentence in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad which says, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Anything that you like. Okay? Don't think you like it for that thing's sake, you like it for yourself. Okay? So for example, you love somebody. Why do you love that person? For that person's sake?
Because you get happiness.
No, because you get happiness when you are in what? Company. Exactly. So therefore, what you are interested in is your happiness. That is the basic truth. Even if you are doing a lot of social work, who are you doing it for? Okay.
Okay, boys.
Hey,
Sorry.
have a great day. Meet Hitesh.
Hi.
Hi, Hitesh.
Hi.
Sorry to interrupt.
Bye.
Hi.
But Neema, there's a difference in the happiness, it's from the analysis you're giving for
Yes.
your self-image.
Yes.
And if you're truly giving it to be happy, your conscience just makes you feel
Yes,
better. You're giving. And
absolutely.
there's a slight distinction.
There is a huge
The
distinction.
intention is, of
There
course,
is a
better
huge
than
distinction.
others, of course.
Absolutely.
Do it without load.
But at the end, it is still to make yourself feel good.
So the better type of good.
Much
Yeah,
better.
of
Yes,
course, much
exactly.
better.
So
There's a
therefore,
difference
you are
between
absolutely
you
right.
quietly
Right.
giving and you wanting to give to the hospital and have your name on a plaque.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's
It's
the
the
difference,
Rajas,
no?
whatever.
The Rajas,
Tamas,
Sattvajas,
Sattvic.
exactly. So you're absolutely right, right? That means that everybody is doing it for the happiness. This is the fact. Okay. Now, how do I define my happiness shows my maturity. What you're saying. If I define my happiness by just grabbing the maximum possible, I'm just a grabber. Okay? But if I define my happiness by contributing, if my happiness comes from giving something to somebody, then I'm a highly mature human being. There is no doubt about it. It's far more sophisticated. There is no doubt about it. Right? But the fact remains, it's not selfless. It is for yourself. What makes you happy is what? Very refined things in life. Okay? So that is your growth. This is what we say, one has to grow to be this sattvic person who defines one's happiness in good things in life, not just by being self-centered. So that is true, right? But the fact is, even that does not totally solve your problem of self-limitation. Okay? Very often you will find, I have met many people, okay? Working with the UN, I have met many people who are in NGOs. Okay? They do a lot of work, they are very committed. Okay? But, so that means they have very noble goals of the difference that they want to make in the society. Okay? But what happens is that the governments don't always go along with their vision. Even the beneficiaries, they don't always buy into what they think is good for you. So that means you think you have all these wonderful goals that you have set, okay, and you find resistance from so many different sources, and then there is frustration. So that means with most noble goals, you still can be a highly frustrated human being. That shows what? One, that the AC blasting is really a lot.
So it's right on the road. Come sit here. Come on.
So even that is...
No.
It will come there also.
No, there's no blast here.
Yeah, even I am very good.
Just sit here, there's no blast. With a short.
So therefore, this inadequacy or incompleteness centered on the self can never be. She's moved.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying she gave the short to me.
With the pursuit of artha, dharma and kama, this sense of lack or inadequacy can never be filled. Once you understand that, then only there is a pursuit of moksha. If you don't understand that, you define your life only within these three, right? Either you are just grabbing things, or you are being successful in a normal sense of the world, with more money, with bigger position, with better cars, with better homes. That is your whole pursuit. Better relationships, that is your pursuit. Or going on vacations and having a good time, going to best of the restaurants and best of the places. This is again kama. Or just being highly ethical human being and being responsible human being. This is what 99.9% of the human beings are pursuing. They don't even know that there is a fourth pursuit, which is moksha. In the Vedic vision, moksha figures in as the most important pursuit of human life.
But you can only come to that pursuit after you are done with these other things.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right, Bela. We are not talking about shunning everything. Okay? We are talking about putting all these pursuits in perspective. Okay? We are not saying that these things are unimportant. Please understand. This is a very, very good.
So, come in the last stage of your life.
Exactly. What we are saying is something which is very, what Bela says, I think we have to understand, because that is a crux. Otherwise, we created a kind of a division which is not necessary. Okay? When we say that artha, dharma and kama do not fill the lack that we have within ourselves, does not then mean they are useless. Because when I say it does not fill the lack that I am feeling within myself, where is it? We make that connection and we think that before it was the most important thing for me, and now it is not important. That's not what we are saying. What we are saying is, artha can give me this much. It can give me. Okay? And it does. It can give me, artha is the securities, the forms of securities that I am seeking. That will what? In the forms of securities, in form of money, in form of property, clothes, or whatever, right? Anything upon which you depend for your security. Relationships, right? You feel insecure, and in order to get rid of that insecurity, what? You seek all these different things. Okay? So therefore, now what we are saying is that whatever, the money is not bad. Okay? Money or position is not bad. We are not creating, oh, this is a material world and it is something that you have to shun and you have to go to spirituality and this is all something that people, ignorant people pursue. We are not doing that. All we are saying is that it has a certain value. It can give me, the money can give me what? Lots of, it's a resource. It can give me a good place to live. It can give me a comfortable kind of a setting within which I can enhance my other self-interest or other hobbies. Okay? It can give me a certain amount of nourishment. It gives me access to education. It gives me access to, if I feel that I have a lot of money, then I can contribute to the society. I can do so many things with that money. So it's a resource and I have to learn to use it effectively. And it is something that I need not look down upon as something which is materialist. But onto this money, if I attribute what? My happiness, and say that more money leads to more happiness, that particular equation, there is some kind of a projection which is in Sanskrit we call Shobhanadhyasa. Shobhanadhyasa means I attribute more value to a given thing than what it has. Okay? So that means the Shobhanadhyasa can be negative or positive. Either I can attribute less value to what that thing has, or I can attribute more value. If I see that thing as it is, then I am being objective. Neither more nor less. Okay? So this is where, and pleasures are also needed in life. Imagine life will be so boring without every source of pleasure, without vacations, without entertainment. You go to NCPA, see some nice shows, you go to a nice restaurant, have a good food. It's all pleasure, and we are not telling you to shun it, right? What we are saying is, your life, if you are defining by having more and more of that, and that is going to fill the lack that you are feeling within you, that's not going to happen, right? But you can have and you can reasonably enjoy. As the Gopi says, when I go to a wedding and I see all these beautiful, that is your sense of aesthetics. That is Ishvara. Don't resist it. Don't think that you are not spiritual if you enjoy beautiful somebody's jewelry or somebody's nice saris or somebody's beautiful dresses. It's not. It's part of aesthetics. You're born, your eyes, as they become subtle, they enjoy some beauty, whether it is in the nature or it is a human beauty. You enjoy that. Learn to enjoy. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay? But your life cannot be committed to that. Okay? That's what we are saying. It's not that it should be or should not be. It's not even an advice. It is just saying you that what you are looking for, which is your main interest, cannot be fulfilled through this. That's all. It's a statement of fact. It's not an advice.
Even on dharma.
Even dharma. Okay? So you can have most dharmic people highly dissatisfied human beings, right? Because what happens is, I think that I'm highly dharmic. I know one person who has such high standards and as a result becomes highly judgmental of others. Okay? So that means when the person does not meet those very high standards, then what? And that person is given names. Now imagine, most of the human beings are not like following the most highest ideals and the best. So what is going to be your image of everybody else in the world? They are useless.
So you feel
right?
superior.
Exactly. And then you tend to look down on them and you think that, oh, people are so silly, people are so kind of mediocre. These are all the implicit assumptions with which you begin to live in this world. Now, even if you are not actually explicitly saying this, if this is your mindset, what is going to be the nature of your interaction with the world? What? Implicitly you just kind of look down and you think that people are no good and people just don't have this high sense of ethics that you have.
You dismiss them. You
You
can't
dis-
really enrich yourself from anything. Anybody.
Exactly. You can't enrich, you're not open, right? You don't enrich yourself from anybody, you don't learn from anybody, because in your opinion, people are just so lacking in things. Okay? And imagine, I'm talking to somebody who's holding that view. How comfortable am I going to be in the presence of that person who's having this inherent thing of superiority? Nobody is going to feel comfortable. That will what? Reconfirm. And then how will the person do? Instead of looking into one's behavior and belief system, it will further reinforce what the person is saying. Immediately I said, yeah, see, you know. So that means we go on compounding our confusions and we become more and more complex. We are less and less in touch with realities. Okay? So therefore, even dharma, even though it is highly exalted, that is absolutely right. The person who is following dharma is far superior to the person who is not following dharma. We are not contending that. But dharma itself will solve this problem that I have of self-judgment and self-image, which is lacking in nature. It will not solve that problem. Once I see that very clearly, then this moksha pursuit becomes a pursuit. Otherwise, I'm just within that. Most of the humanity is within artha, dharma and kama.
Most of the rishis and pandits, they think too highly of
Moksha. No, in fact,
a lot of
their
not rishis,
pursuit,
but like the current sort of priests that come from puja and all that.
No, I don't know, because I don't want to talk about people that I've never met. So I don't know who they are and what is the attitude they carry. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, moksha, what is moksha for? Right? Moksha is for the person who Vedic vision recognizes moksha as the pursuit. Okay? And that moksha, which is correcting your self-image, in keeping with some reality, is that option. Okay, now if that self-image that I have, which is lacking in nature, and you can have many different ways to correct that self-image. You have all these California types of self-help, which is, they know very well that the basic problem you have is self-image. Okay? Then they come up with all kinds of positive psychology and all to address that self-image problem that you have. Now, if one book of self-help could actually address your problem of low self-image, then you don't need many books. The very fact that it is a huge business, okay, and also that in more and more books you buy, means none of the books that you have read has really given you the self-image that you are seeking. So that means
Maybe
you
one,
have,
if I read 20, there will be that one which will be the final answer.
you think, exactly.
That's
So
what I
this
think.
is how
Maybe you look at
keep
the
on-
19 and you say, I must not have understood these 19, and that increases your
No, but I
self-
feel
your
sometimes
ego
it's an
self-
amalgamation of everything.
Yes.
Just clicks
Sometimes
But
what
the
happens,
interesting thing is that once you feel you have understood it reasonably correctly, then you can see the correctness no matter what anybody is saying,
yes,
which is, I find, a big difference in. You can actually say, okay, maybe he's not understood what he's saying, but what he's really saying is this.
but that means that you have
And you
done
didn't
a
need
lot
him
more
at all.
reflection.
You didn't need him at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, but you're right, it can
No, but
trigger.
there is
It
a
can
truth
trigger.
in everything
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you are
Yeah.
able to
So-
see is what
You
I'm trying to
decipher
say.
clearly.
In fact, Priya, what you're saying is absolutely right. Nobody is a fool. If all those self-help books were totally not helping you, you will not even buy the next one. Okay? So what Priya is saying is very true. It helps you in connecting one little perspective. Okay? Then other book, because human mind is so complex and we have so many things which are inside. So if one part of ours, there is some correction, we feel very happy with it. Okay? Now the other book, they are very clever because the psychologists, they know that the human mind has range of ways of thinking and they address the other one. And then you feel, oh yeah, that is also helping. So therefore, you try to keep on getting better and better perspective. And the fact is you do correct and you do. But it is not, no one thing will say that this is now what? I have really solved the problem.
And so it's just serving one more way,
One more way.
on the
Yes.
journey.
But it's not single comprehensive.
Exactly. Right? Now, what Vedic vision is that this particular problem of inadequacy can only be solved with a total paradigm shift. Remaining within your paradigm, there is no solution. Right? It is like you are in a problem and you are inside that problem. Okay? And you go round and round and round. Okay? What Vedic vision does is, hey, that is true. Now, see the whole situation from here. I'm not denying your problem or anything, but have a much larger perspective. Within that perspective, which is much broader, this will have what? Its own place. It will have, right? But what is exactly? That means once you begin to see things in right perspective with much bigger vision of things, then what? Naturally, in that vision is the natural solution to a lot of your little problems. Your little problems are a result of big realities are missed out and small things have become very big. There is a whole problem of vision there.
So therefore it's an ongoing thing in the sense that when you attain that place and you're able to see the problem set from that
Yes.
side. So by that logic, it needs to be ongoing by itself again. That you
There is
alter, keep on changing your paradigms.
Because here yes, at two levels. At one level, there is no changing of paradigms because we will see the truth of you happens to be that of truth of time, space, everything, right? So therefore, at that level, there is no shift. But at the level of your behavior and you're integrating that reality in your day-to-day world and in your decision making, you never stop. Absolutely. You keep on moving closer and closer to that vision. That is true. You at no point you are complacent and you are saying that I have accomplished everything. Okay? So at both levels, one is the absolute, the other one is you're living that absolute. In that there is constant revision. Absolutely. Right? So the moksha pursuit is then to know my true nature. Basically, Vedas say that if you are limited, if that is your nature, then a limited person acquiring a limited thing and wants freedom from limitation, logically it's not possible. So the only solution logically to your search for freedom is that you're already free. That is the only logical solution. If you're already free, then you can ask, why is it that I feel that I'm bound by hundreds of notions, I'm totally burdened by hundreds of notions about myself, about the world, about the nature of people, about everything. Okay. So this is where the Vedic vision says, hey, re-look at who you are, what is the nature of the universe and what is the nature of the cause of the universe. Okay? So therefore, moksha is a legitimate pursuit. For moksha, knowledge of realities is also a legitimate pursuit. Knowledge of realities, right? Knowledge of who I am, knowledge of what is the nature of the world, knowledge of is there a cause of the universe? And if there is cause of the universe, what is my relationship with that cause of the universe? These are very fundamental questions in life.
The knowledge of reality,
Yes.
does it depend on the ability of the evaluator and therefore is different for everyone?
So no, here we present Vedanta as kind of a means of knowledge. Every knowledge. Okay, now this is a good question. In order to answer this question, I want you to understand the difference between two things. Okay? What is karma and what is knowledge? How do you define action and how is it different from knowledge?
Knowledge is just the realization of reality.
Excellent. Okay. And action?
Action is a response to something.
Excellent. What Arnaz is saying is something which is so significant. Okay. The distinguishing factor between knowledge and action in Sanskrit, you call it, knowledge is Vastu Tantra. Vastu Tantra means it is centered on what is. Okay? So that means way before Newton discovered laws of gravity, the laws of gravity were already there. He didn't create laws of gravity.
But to some extent knowledge can change because your knowledge may not be absolute.
Absolute. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
You're right. Because Newtonian physics, that's a very good point. Newtonian physics was based on this framework where you took time and space as absolutes.
So here when you're talking about
So-
knowledge, you're talking about an absolute knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
There's a big
But
difference.
yeah, but still your whole attempt is what? To know things as the realities exist. And your capacity to what? Remove, you are not creating knowledge. You are removing your veils. And veils after veils after veils. So you are in keeping with what is. Okay? You are not creating anything new. When Einstein discovered, and what she says, that time and space is relative, he did not create relativity. I mean, the time and space were already relative. So that means what we thought of time and space earlier was not in keeping with reality. So his knowledge is what? Removing the veil, so you understand that reality. So that process, with reference to the world, it keeps on going on and we keep on revising.
Who just sat under a tree, the Bodhi tree, and then suddenly got enlightened. He didn't go to seek knowledge. He just kind of shifted the paradigm of his brain to get, some sort of knowledge and then become enlightened.
So by definition, in fact, Einstein is a rishi because there are laws and your mind is able to capture those laws accurately without what? Coloring it.
Yeah, but despite having this knowledge, I still don't have I still may not have that complete understanding of relativity, even though it is knowledge.
But this is why, in fact, the whole Vedanta pursuit, it includes both, right? There is one thing which is the final reality about yourself, and in between the whole personal growth, changing your understanding
So
of
that
things
you
and
can
all.
actually
So that you
understand
can
that.
understand. So that's why the whole pursuit covers both. Okay, but to answer your question, nobody creates knowledge. Knowledge is already there. Even if you go to a medical school, okay, you don't create knowledge. Eyes are already made. You only remove your ignorance about how they operate. Right? Already they are designed to the way they are designed. So human being always only what? Sheds ignorance. That's all we do. Okay? Action as opposed to knowledge is what? Purusha Tantra. Jnanam is Vastu Tantra. It is centered on what is, and I only have to remove my ignorance. Okay? Action is Purusha Tantra, means it is centered on your free will, your decision. You can do it, you need not do it, and you can do things differently. That's where you actually can exercise your free will. In knowledge, you can't exercise your free will. Please understand. If time and space is relative, you can't say, oh, I want it to be absolute. It doesn't come and consult you. If laws of gravity are there, you can't ignore them because your whole life is lived within laws of gravity. Okay? It does not, the laws of gravity cannot come and say now, they don't need your permission. So, the knowledge is always not creating anything new but shedding your ignorance. And action is based on free will. How your response is, as Arna says.
Yeah, but Jnana will actually make your actions more meaningful.
Exactly. The more you know things accurately, more responsible you become in your actions. Okay? But you can't change that. That means the knowledge that you want to have is what? As close to what is, rather than what? Moving from one extreme to the other. We go from what? Negative to positive. And we miss the reality.
It is rather than what you want.
Like you said, glass is not half full or half empty.
Empty. It is both. And both the reality, because otherwise we are constantly moving from one partial vision to the other partial vision. This is half full, this is what, half empty, this is a partial vision, and this is half full, is equally partial vision, because you are ignoring the other part. The reality means is half full and half empty, and within this half full, what can I do? This is the fact.
And even the half empty, I can fill it up more.
Yeah, you can do so much with it, right? But if I ignore its existence, then what? I'm creating a mental block. Every time my mental block keeps me from realities. And whenever it keeps me from realities, my responses are partial, based on partial understanding and not all based on full understanding. Okay? So therefore, now, if there is a reality, there are realities in this world which are constantly being revised. What was believed for a long time was negated, and then we keep on shifting. Now what Vedanta says is, when you look at the world, the realities that you examine will keep on shifting, because the nature of the world is that it is not absolute. Okay? But there is one absolute which is Satyam, and the world is Mithya. That Satyam is not subject to revision. Okay? And that is who? Atma. There is a very sophisticated methodology. I have already done it with them, so I don't want to go into it again. But you will listen to it again, so please wait till that comes. But what we are saying is, it's true that in Mithya world, there is no absolute knowledge. It keeps on getting revised. But there is one knowledge which is absolute, and in that absolute knowledge is your solution to your freedom. Because that one absolute on which the whole relative world depends is you. Brahma, Satyam, Jagat, Mithya. This is the vision of Upanishad, and it makes you see that reality about yourself. Okay? So therefore, now this reality, if this is the reality of myself, then pursuit of this reality becomes a valid pursuit. Right? The person who is searching for that reality is not considered some stupid person or a dropout person or anything. There is a valid place for that person who is engaged in dwelling on that reality. Okay? So therefore, who is a sannyasi? Sannyasi is supposed to be that person
Who has renounced the world.
Exactly. Who understands that the solution to my inadequacy does not lie in all the three things, but it lies in my contemplating upon my true nature. So therefore, a sannyasi has a place, a reverential place in the society, because there is a place for moksha. A sannyasi is not working, is not having family. In any other society which does not see moksha as the goal, that person is a dropout, produces zero economic value, so that person is redundant in the society. Please understand the implications. Okay? Because is in economic terms, the person does not bring,
Is not productive.
is not productive. Okay? So that means the vision of the society, if it is that the person who is productive is what? Engaged well in artha and dharma and kama, that is the value, then that person has a value. In the Vedic vision, if Moksha is the pursuit. The person who is pursuing moksha, which is inquiry about the nature of oneself, gains what? A very respectable position in the society. When you see a sannyasi, whether you know how much he knows or not, there is this whole feeling of what? Slight reverence, unless you are totally conditioned by newspaper and the items where people are so kind of,
But also because they are genuinely given up the rest.
Exactly.
There are a whole bunch of folk
Situation.
sannyasis.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
what
That's
is,
why. Right? But in general, the society respects somebody who has given up everything for knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Okay? There is this whole beautiful sannyasa ritual that we have seen, our teacher giving sannyasa to some of the students who have studied with me. Right? They go in front of the Ganga and they go in front of the sun and they say, I am not interested in any other pursuit in life, I only want to know Ishvara, your true nature and my true nature, and I am going to devote my whole life to it.
what my problem with this is a lot of people feel at this point I want to, but then 5 years down the line,
Yeah, then
I
becomes.
don't want to do
But
this anymore.
first you have to understand what is the vision of sannyasa. Then you can talk about the problems.
Yeah.
Because if you only talk about the problems and if you miss the vision, then you don't have a proper perspective.
But is that important? It doesn't matter.
No, it matters.
Sorry.
It matters.
If
It's
they
a
put it
discussion.
at that point you feel you want to do it, and then 5 years later you feel, no, I'm not ready for it, it's okay.
In fact, in Buddhism, in Thailand, people take monkhood for 6 months, 8 months, because it's lovely to be able to see how you can actually disengage from the world and you can just be contemplative for 6 months.
It's like Maninatya, it's a discipline.
It's like, you go for any kind of thing.
Same story.
Get it.
It's the same
You sit and
story,
figure
it's
out
just
what
a
you want to
mental
do.
discipline that you
Can you be
are.
a sannyasi and still engage in the world?
Yeah, that is, it's true. You can be a sannyasi and you can still be engaged in the world.
But
But
you're
the
not called a
prime,
sannyas.
yeah,
Yes,
you
yeah.
can. Because see, for example, Swamiji does so many different activities for culture, for helping the kids, poor children. He has lots and lots of
But
activities.
he's sannyasi for
But
himself. He's not married, he's
Yeah,
not
he's
got
not.
children.
Yeah.
So that part of it where, so many things I may want to stick to my principles, for example, on many things. But I know that I have to earn money because I have children to feed, I have responsibilities.
No,
So
I'm
that
not
is-
saying everybody should take sannyasa. Please
No,
understand
I know
why Vedic vision
Respects the sannyas.
is, in fact, even recognizing sannyasa. Who is a sannyasi? I'm talking at a very fundamental level. I'm not talking at the level of whether we should or we should not. I'm talking at what is a sannyasi.
Yes.
No, what I'm trying to say is, to become a sannyasi, it is important to renounce. Otherwise, it's very hard to become a sannyasi. That's what I'm trying to say.
The sannyasi recognizes simple thing. Okay, my problem of self-inadequacy can only be solved by what? Self-knowledge. Right? And the person says, every other pursuit I'm going to set aside because this is the pursuit that I want to pursue. That's all.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say, that to be able to do that, to be able
Yeah.
to
She's
pursue
saying in
it,
many ways to attain moksha,
you cannot have
the
responsibilities of
surest
others
path in a way is to
renounce.
renounce.
No.
No,
in
you
fact,
said through
in
karma.
fact, Lord Krishna is saying something totally different.
Yeah,
He
that's
says
what I'm saying.
that sannyasa, if you take prematurely, it will give you dukkha.
Yeah.
Karma yoga is a safe way.
That's why do your
So
action
even
and
yeah,
get your
but-
experience and
But
then-
First
still
you
knowing
need to-
the place of the sannyasi in the same
If you
equation.
conclude that sannyasis are useless, that is what I want to
Yeah.
correct that vision. It has, in Vedic life, sannyasa is a valid pursuit. Please
Not a
understand that.
But you can still
necessarily.
become a jivan
Mukta,
mukta
in both ways,
without
in
being a
both ways, yes,
sannyasi. But there's
exactly.
a place for a sannyasi and we should
Exactly.
respect that.
Absolutely. Right? That is exactly.
You have to be ready to be a sannyasi.
No.
We are not talking
No, just
about
respect
being
those who
ready.
become.
We are just trying to understand what is sannyasi. Who is a sannyasi? Who is that person? Right? Then we are talking
And
about
why-
whether you are ready. That is a second step. We have not yet come to that step. We are right now only understanding why sannyasa? Who is a sannyasi? What it is meant to be.
In Vedic
That's all.
vision and to society.
In the Vedic vision, why is sannyasa a pursuit
Not a dropout.
and not a dropout? That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Right.
not that you're running away from that.
No.
Exactly.
Because you can't
Now,
deal with it.
that
Like you
person,
feel a sannyasi is in
But there are some
society.
people who do that.
Who do it.
Who
They
are
take
false
that
people.
to the influence. That's
They
different.
are not sannyasis.
Because at the end of the day, they are economically dependent on the rest of society. So there is an ability to see it that way. But what you're saying is, don't see it that way.
In the Vedic vision, we don't see that.
okay,
at least.
now that's a very good point. But Avni is making is, now if I devote my whole life for knowledge, then what she's saying is absolutely right. The society needs to support me, right? Because I then become dependent on different people to give me resources, food, everything. Okay? Now, the society will support me if society has value for what I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Otherwise
the
they-
society has no value for what I'm doing, the society will not support me. Like how he was telling me that he says knowledge is not adequately respected in this spiritual knowledge in India. Okay? It has a huge value added
It used to be in the past. but
in the
somewhere
past.
along the way it
Exactly.
lost.
Right? So therefore, there is, if the person who has the knowledge, if others see the value for it, automatically will be supported. And in the past, as Bela says, okay, it was supported. The kings, okay, would go to a wise person who is a rishi who is living in a forest. Who will bow to whom?
The king will bow to
The king will bow to this one person who's sitting under the tree. He doesn't have to get up and what? Show the king the respect. The king will come to that wise person to get proper perspective. Will come for advice. Right? Because this person has invested in knowing something more and increasing the perspective. That person is valued.
Does it then become the responsibility of the sannyasi to spread this knowledge, or is he okay if he says, nobody understands what I'm saying, I'm just going to give this knowledge. I'm
Unless
happy I
someone
have
comes
this
to him
knowledge.
seeking for the knowledge, then it's his responsibility.
But does he
Give
have
it
to
in the
go
right
out
way.
to
Not
disperse
necessarily.
it or distribute it?
See, a sannyasi is the person who knows, is like a physics professor. Okay? Then does the physics professor knock on everybody's door and say, no, you make yourself available, and then those who see value for it, everything in this world is like that. You can't force any knowledge on anyone.
At the same time, it ought not to be the sannyasi's responsibility. I'm just working
Yeah.
with the word here.
Yeah.
To share.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact,
It's that person's free will at that point.
free will. Absolutely.
Because if I think that you are coming to me, I'm the sannyasi, and you're coming to me, and I don't think you're ready for this knowledge, I may not give it to you.
That I think is wrong of the sannyasi personally, because you
Because he's
start
judging.
seeking. You have to give. They're not going to go no. Well, because someone's seeking it. If you've got that knowledge, you can share that knowledge. Someone's
No, but
coming
like
to me.
Neema was telling us when she wanted to go and do her study Vedanta, she was sent away the first time.
Yeah.
Then she
Yeah.
sent her away because he thought it wasn't the right time
Yeah.
for her to be studying it. So he did actually turn her away. And in retrospect, she does feel that that was not the right time perhaps for her to have studied it.
So what changed that?
Okay,
it
why
was
are
the
we
right time?
judging?
Exactly. See,
See,
the
the
thing is,
judging. This
No,
is
no, no,
what
I'm not
this
talking about
is
specific.
interesting. Yeah, I think
No,
it's
I'm
interesting.
judging the rishi
Now
for
just to bring in
No, no,
you
he has gone
the
seeking for wise. He should give the knowledge. He's not judging that he's not ready for that. He's giving him,
help people
but
come
help
in.
him, no, for
So
seeking
in Vedanta,
advice.
do we have that
That's
same
different, I
concept?
feel.
I mean,
It's very different from that
not
to
with the
this.
sannyasi.
This is ready to learn a different. This is.
I
He's
think
asking for
is it-
why
is
he's
it
asking
once
this
he is
and asking for-
enlightened, I am now enlightened. Now it is my responsibility to try and get more people to be enlightened.
I don't.
I don't think that is that. That is
Continue to
different. I
sit
feel
under
if
the
someone's
Bodhi tree and be
seeking
happy and
seeking
say, "Oh,
advice
I'm
from a right
I'm
person,
ready
then
to
it's
leave
his
this world."
responsibility to give it. I think that's the difference.
what we are saying is that that person has a free, like all of us, we have a free will.
To do
That
it
person
differently,
has
do
a,
it or not
yeah,
do it.
exactly. You know.
Yeah,
So-
and it's a better choice maybe
better
having
choice.
got the knowledge to share it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
but
whether
it's
better or good, then there's no better.
Then yeah, then you're right. Then if you're saying it's
Yeah.
wrong, then
It's
there's no
his
better or
choice.
good. Then it's
He
back to
may
the
be one
same
of
thing.
No, but there are
That's
better
true.
choices and good good choices. That's what we're working towards, better choices.
No, but if it's your free will, then there's no better or this. Then in
Of
that
course
sense,
there is no.
Yeah.
It's a free
But
will,
it's yours,
it's a better.
but to him it may not be,
making.
no? But to the sannyasi, that may not be the better, no? To free, it's his free will. It's
But
maybe
maybe we're
different. It's
mixing up the
relative
role
then.
of a guru and a sannyasi then. Are we?
Okay. Now,
Yeah, it gets too complicated then. That's what I feel.
free will does not mean everything is relative. Please understand. That's not what we are
No,
saying.
to give.
You can be.
To give then.
One is more responsible use of free will, the other one is less responsible way of using.
Yeah,
So it is
better
better
maybe a wrong
So,
word, yeah.
but why you are not giving can have many different reasons. That also we have to become far more subtle and much less judgmental. Behind every statement we make, we are so judgmental about everything. Okay? The person may not be giving the knowledge because the person may think that you are not ready yet. Okay? For different reasons. Like you go to a PhD professor and you have not even studied undergraduate, and you say that now you teach me, and he'll say you wait for a certain, you go and do something else, get to my level before, and will you say this person is not using the free will adequately? No. In fact, in Vedanta, there is a big danger because you are taught your limitlessness. If you don't understand it accurately, what will happen? You will continue to think, I am the body, I am the mind, and you will impute limitlessness onto that, and you will do the biggest disservice to yourself and everybody around you. And this is what I see very rampantly happening in all these California self-help. They've taken this idea of limitlessness and they have said, you're limitless. People think that I am what? What is limitless? Who am I? My mind. Then I can do anything. This is one of the most dangerous way of what? Using this knowledge. So that means Vedanta was taught the teachers had responsibility to make sure that the person to whom it is transferred has certain cognitive capacity to understand what is being said, certain reflective capacity, certain analytical capacity, so that this subtle knowledge is not going to be misused. See, you have to have a highly
to understand, to come to this
refined mind to even begin to understand what is being said. Okay? The teacher can say, okay, yes, this person has a potential and I can cultivate this person to become more and more refined. That is fine. But if the person, in fact, recently, one student who is in my class, and she asked me this question. She says, I have a cousin who has some kind of a psychiatric problem. Okay? And everybody is so sad to see her like that. Will Vedanta help her? Okay? Will this knowledge of Vedanta help her to come out? Because none of the psychiatrists are able to help her. Will this knowledge help her? Right? And this is something, I said, in fact, for Vedanta to work, you need your basic cognitive capacities not impaired. That is one basic requirement. Because otherwise you will just create your whole big picture based on, and it has got nothing to do with what Vedanta says. Okay? So the teacher has to be careful to whom this knowledge is given. Like you go and you want to study music from Bhimsen Joshi or from Pandit Jasraj. You need certain preparation. Right? So this is how in every knowledge it is like that. Every knowledge, there is a responsibility of parting that knowledge, and the other person has to be a what? A deserving recipient. That happens in everything in this world. You go to Harvard Business School, what? How many people compete? Who get in?
That's why you have a competitive test to get in.
Exactly. So here, the teacher uses what? One's discerning power to see who can receive this knowledge and who does not receive this knowledge. Our teacher used to say there is a natural selection. Even if you advertise, you put in Times of India that there is this knowledge, moksha, which will ultimately solve your problem of what? your self-image, and you see how many people come. Everybody is suffering from this problem. The whole Bombay city should be here. How many will come? That means there is a natural selection. For somebody it rings something. After having come, how many people will stay on? It has to resonate with you. If it doesn't resonate with your values and what your outlook of life is, you will drop out automatically. So there is what we call a natural selection taking place. So the teacher has to somehow make oneself available and give that teaching, and this is a role that sannyasi plays. Okay? Even though the person has left every other duty, he's not just working and whatever, that person is making oneself available for this teaching. And that is seen as a huge contribution in the society. Why? Because we are so caught in our own perspective of artha, dharma and kama. If somebody has studied about moksha, reflected on it, has understood what Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita are talking about, is able to communicate to you in a way that you can understand, that person cannot be seen as having no value. Knowledge has a huge value in the society. Okay? So that knowledge, whether that person is a sannyasi or in the Vedic vision, a Brahmana, who stood for what? A person who was engaged to scholarship, studying Veda, reflecting on Veda. Okay, that time the Veda is a body of knowledge. So any knowledge that you are committed to, right, and you are reflecting on it, that person was considered what? The highest in the society. Not the person who has what? The maximum money or maximum, the value in the society was given to knowledge and people who were reflecting on that knowledge. That is the Vedic vision. Okay. Recently, there is a you have to understand where this whole tradition, where it comes from. Otherwise, we are not aware of the depth of this whole Vedic tradition. And we haven't imbibed the whole perspective that the Vedic tradition carries with it. And the whole vision that Vedic thing. Some of the modern scholars, they see that. I read a very, very nice article by a famous scholar, French scholar. His name is François Bouthier. Brilliant scholar. He says that in the world, if you look, okay, what is the definition of success, which is a generally accepted definition of success? The modern world in which we live, what? Generally, it's a unidimensional definition of success is what? More money, really. And whatever money can buy. This is how the modern society is looking at it. He says, is there any society which gives an alternative way of looking at what is success? He says, there is only one society, Indian society, because Buddhism is also an offshoot of Hinduism. It gives at a global level an alternative way of looking at what is success. It says that enhanced self-discovery and self-growth are the highest pursuits. In the hierarchy of pursuits, they are people who occupy the prime position. And he says, if the world is looking for a different model, and if they begin to shift their value and begin to value knowledge more than just acquiring certain things, he says we will all be so highly enriched in this world. So here he says that Vedic vision has a lot of contribution to make universally. It's not just a small thing, it's a big thing, it's a big shift. Okay? So this is where we come from a tradition And you have to recognize the importance of that tradition and the far-sightedness of that tradition. Okay? A scholarly person who's engaged in knowledge, in self-growth, occupies the highest position. People come and he or she plays an advisory role. The society not only supports, but what? Draws on his knowledge and his wisdom to embellish themselves and increase their perspective. Okay. So this is something, in fact, to a certain extent, people do say that USA is a very thriving economy because they value knowledge. They have gathered all the people who are experts in everything, and they support, the society supports them. Society values them, and this is where most of the innovations come in that society, where bright people, thinkers are encouraged.
The only place that gives back to the universities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't think that. I think even in the West, people are beginning to understand.
That's what I'm saying.
But they're
Yes.
moving
And
eastwards
money is
and
not
we are
the
going
solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people are
Absolutely.
people who make the most money are the biggest givers. If you
Yeah.
say Bill Gates or.
So anyway,
But I think what the box that's missing is that they're still looking within Artha, Karma
Dharma
and Dharma. So that's
Absolutely.
the Dharma aspect of giving. What
Yes.
you're saying is there's a fourth
Fourth aspect.
Which-
Exactly. Which is
which they are not yet.
which is, and in fact, Avni, they are taking it. You'll be surprised. You know, all this new age and all this, there is an attempt to take it. They take, but they simplify it because it's too sophisticated. So they take parts of it and they actually make it very big, and they are useful. They are not totally useless either. Okay, but we own that tradition which is highly sophisticated, and we have to at least be proud of what we, our heritage, because it has a huge contribution not only for Indians but for the whole global. You know, once the knowledge is discovered, it is not the property of anybody. Einstein discovered what? E is equal to mc squared. Does it become Jewish knowledge? No, it is knowledge for humanity. This knowledge is not Indian knowledge. It is knowledge for humanity.
patents concept is wrong.
Yeah. It has the capacity to enrich humanity. So we should not even look upon it as we are born in this tradition. We first have to recognize the importance of this knowledge and then do whatever we can to promote this knowledge. And first understand how this knowledge is important. Okay. So this sannyasi is playing that role of not only pursuing but also sharing. Right? Pursuing and sharing, and in that sharing is the benefit of so many others. And when they start benefiting, they automatically support the person. Okay? So this is how the whole society is made. So therefore, sannyasa has its place. Okay? Now, the problem, which is what Bela was talking about, is sannyasa has its place. It is a very exalted place. Knowledge, the person who is pursuing knowledge, the person who is capable of then sharing that knowledge, right? But does it always happen in this ideal way? It does not. And this is what Lord Krishna is saying, that sannyasa as such is something which is highly exalted, but it doesn't mean every sannyasi has understood it all properly and is playing the role responsibly. So this is what he says, if you prematurely give up, give up the world, and then you want in this whole romantic idea of pursuing the knowledge, what happens? All your things for artha, somebody comes to you, and then your whole attention is how much money can I make from this person. I have a very dear friend of mine, and she said how subtle people are. Okay, she used to go to one Vedanta class, and she is quite who's who, right? So the minute she entered, the teacher would say, "Come and sit close." That worked against the teacher. This person says, "Hey, you are teaching me Vedanta. I have come to learn from you. Why are you giving me that special place? Based on what? based
My
on the fact
position
that
in
I have
society.
some position in the society, that means your values are not right. She stopped going to that class. Okay, that means in her vision, the way she assessed the teacher is, if this teacher is looking at the student based on how much money the person has, what position that has in the society, implicitly there is some more value attached to that person and that position. If that is the case, the person has not yet totally satisfied one's. Yeah. Okay. So this is what, in fact, as you said, if you take sannyasa prematurely, it will all start. You assume a role of a teacher, and all your lacks and all your unaddressed issues will start manifesting without even you knowing it.
Actually, that happens more often than not, which is why
I think
sannyasi
those are
become
advertised more, you know. So
they are more. I suppose the person who has attained the all knowledge is not really advertising, and sleeping quiet and being happy on his own, kind of thing.
what here it says, it's not about, it's about sannyasi as such, what is the idea, and what Lord Krishna says, if you take it prematurely, there are problems. Okay? The problems come in form of what? Your own nourishment,
You're not satisfied.
because you have not really addressed, and this is exactly what Arnaz was pointing out, because I felt that when I went to my teacher that he could not have asked for a better student than me, because in my mind, right, I had studied at this Ivy League school, I was working with the UN, I thought he would be thrilled to have me as a student. What was his vision? His vision is, I'm still very young. I have to go through I was in my early 20s. Okay? I still have to go through experiences in life. I have to have some nourishment. I have to have some nurturing, which is so important in order for me to really do a proper job to Vedanta. So he then, as Anna says, he told me, you wait for a few years. And I was devastated. I said, well, how can, if all these people are studying Vedanta, how come he's telling me no? But in hindsight, it is really something which is the best, because everybody needs that personal nourishment. Okay? If you don't nurture yourself, if you think, our teacher used to say, if you think that the world is too much of a problem or bad, and you want to run away, right? And then you want to embellish yourself with Vedanta, he says it will never work. If the world is problem for you, you stay right there, you make it into a no problem, and then you are free. Then Vedanta will work for you.
It's like I always think of politicians, and they don't face the real world problems like we do. The roads are clear for them to move through the city. How will they know what the ordinary citizen faces to fix it?
Exactly.
It bothers me.
Yeah, it's wrong they get through it, now they just enjoy
No, they need to
the
still go
fruits.
through it.
They've seen it, that's a
They still have to go on the
They should
bump,
go
so
like
they
we
still
do,
have to go
exactly.
on.
it's true.
The
They are
roads are
going to
fixed
become
for
a
politicians.
So, here he says that and also relationships that the Swamis get into. Same. Right? All these natural urges and all, they are all there. If you prematurely take sannyasa, then what happens? You enter into a relationship where, in this relationship of a teacher and a student, what happens? Student is naturally what? Little bit in awe of the teacher, especially in spiritual knowledge. It is about, this whole thing, and then you have not, there is this attachment, then they are willing to serve you, they are willing to do things for you, then what, all these things which are unaddressed, they all come out. Then you begin to justify, Atma is always free. You see what I mean, how mind works? To just take you on a tangent and use this knowledge inappropriately. So this is what Lord Krishna recognizes as danger. And therefore he says, sannyasa, if you take prematurely, dukkham aptum ayogata. If you are ayoga, means if you are not ready for it, it will give you unhappiness, because you are more caught in this whole search.
You're trying to suppress it rather
Exactly.
than being above it. You're just
Exactly.
shoving it down.
Absolutely.
You're not rising above. You're pushing this down.
Absolutely. Right? So this is what he says. Don't be in a hurry to take sannyasa. Okay? Karma yoga, on the other hand, is safe. Na achirena adhigachati. Karma yoga means what? I have understood that moksha is the end that I am seeking, and I need self-growth. Okay? And living in this world will give me an opportunity for that self-growth. Once you do that, that now, before living in the world and performing actions, what was my only thing? Get more of security, more of pleasure, and maybe some dharma. Now, for karma yogi, what is the end? Moksha is the end. Right? The person understands that I need to discover my true nature, but the purpose of action is what? To help me to get rid of my angularities, to have proper perspective, because we all have things which are all within the huge big load that we are carrying. It's not all going to go away as you listen to Vedanta. You need to undo this load one by one. And how will you do it one by one? When you live in this world, the situations will trigger where one load that you are carrying will start manifesting, either in form of anger, or in form of sadness, or in form of fear, or in form of self-image. All this, it will all surface. Now, when it surfaces, you have the chance to what? Change it. So this is what he says, Karma Yoga is a much safer bet, because it gives you an opportunity to, and this is where you say there is never an end. You can always do things better. Okay? It gives you an opportunity to undo your distortions so that you can live more responsibly. And unless you have done that job, that final vision cannot really stay with you. So this is what he says, both are an option. Karma Yoga is an option, Sannyasa is an option. The Vedic vision allows both. Okay? But he says Karma Yoga is safe. Yes? But that does not mean Sannyasa is useless. If there are people who have taken it and it is a valid pursuit, provided what? They really engage in knowing that reality and sharing it with the society. Society can benefit a lot from the presence of those kind of people too. So you can't have a value judgment that they are all useless. This is what I want you to see. As a pursuit, it is valid. The person who is pursuing it, there is a whole range. Either the person is just immature and running away to sannyasa, or playing that role very well. There is this whole range of individuals. Yeah? So this is what this whole verse is talking about. So Arjuna is told not to run away from the battlefield, but to stay there. Even though he is in moksha, he wants that freedom. Okay.
I wonder if at the time Krishna said this, when Vedas were written, would the Vedic knowledge and the ability to become a sannyasi be available to everyone?
Yeah.
Whereas Karma Yoga would be available to everyone, to allow more people to get there.
Well, did you have to be
So,
born
yeah.
a woman?
Because I think,
yeah. There is a
okay.
balance.
Now that's Avni, I think what you are raising is a very interesting point. I don't know if I'm really answering your question or not, but I am trying to answer, right? Now, in our course, when we do 3.5-year course, people come from around the world. Okay, so there are Indians. When I did, there were about 5 foreigners. This time when Surya did, 40% foreigners. And this time it is, I think, 50-50. So more and more foreigners are coming from Argentina, from Brazil, from the US, from Australia, from Europe, Japan, Korea. People come from everywhere. Now, what happens after the course is over? Okay? Many of them, they go back to their own country. In their country, this whole thing of spiritual knowledge and a lifestyle where you just kind of study and you share, that doesn't exist. that possibility of just living like
they
that.
have priests who renounce the world.
But not Vedanta. Okay, they have their Christian priests, and in fact they are highly supported by Christian church. Every need of theirs, it's a Christian church is very, very politically and financially very strong. So they belong to this organization. These people are individuals who have pursued knowledge, and they are wanting to share this knowledge. Now, the whole thing is, in India, they all survive. They become teachers, and the people who learn from them, they give them some food, and they will give them some apartment, and over a period of time they flourish. Now, but those people, they really want to share this knowledge. There is no infrastructure for them. There is no infrastructure because in that society, that Vedanta teaching, which will lead to moksha, doesn't exist.
No demand for it.
There is no demand for it.
No, her question was more that at that point in time, the caste system didn't permit everybody
You were limiting
to
it to
be
the
a
Brahmins.
priest, for
Look,
example.
hear what I am saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing, that sometimes the society doesn't allow,
but
in many different forms.
yeah.
I'm answering in a different way,
Yeah.
right?
So karma yoga just allows more
Allows,
people.
absolutely, absolutely. Who can deny you karma
Your
yoga?
own
Yeah,
path.
it's your own growth, right? And your own pursuit of knowledge. So this is what is said by, right? So I want you to understand what is sannyasa, and it has a background. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.